So I have one more video on examples of cost and revenue and profit functions. So this first one, again, both of these are from the packet. It says the monthly profit for renting X apartments in an apartment complex is given by this equation. The domain is between 0 and 250. And I'm just going to do part B, where it says evaluate P prime of 220 and interpret the result. Okay, so I need to first find P prime of X and then plug 220 in. So -8 times 2 is -16, and then it'd be X to the first. The derivative of 3200X is 3200, and the derivative of 80,000 is 0, so we don't need to write it. Then I'm going to plug in 220 for X and simplify. And that gives me -320. So they don't give me the units for P of X, but that means it would be in dollars. So this would be dollars per apartment, because the X is in apartments, would be the units. And then the question says to interpret it. So because it's negative, the profit is actually decreasing. Remember, the P prime of 220 is giving me the profit for the 221st item. So what P prime of 220 means is when renting, we already rented 220 apartments, the decision to rent an additional apartment, okay, or the 221st apartment, would decrease the profit by the $320. So we're saying the profit, which isn't really a profit because you're losing money, but you would be losing money if you rented the 221st apartment after already renting the 220 apartments. So that would be the interpretation of it. And then one more example with the average cost. So it says, consider the cost function, the total daily cost in dollars for X items. Find the average cost function. Okay, and like I said, average cost is they put this bar over it, and the average cost, the formula is the cost function divided by the number of units or items, which is X. So I would be taking 100,000 minus 50X minus 0.05X squared, and I'm dividing those three terms by X. So when I do that, I have to separate this and divide each term in the numerator by what's in the denominator. So I'm going to divide all three of these by X and then simplify. So the 100,000 over X doesn't really simplify. I'm just going to leave that as 100,000 over X. You could make it X to the negative first, which we will have to do in part B, but I'm going to wait for that. 50X divided by X is 50, and 0.05X squared over X is 0.05X. Okay, so this is my average cost function, the C with that bar over X. And then B asks us to find values. So they said find the average cost at 400. So that means I'm going to plug in 400 into this function. And then we are going to simplify that. And I get 180. So the average cost is $180. So the average cost to what are we talking about? Yeah, they don't really give us any. The average cost for 400 items is $180. All right, so then B says find C prime with the bar, so the average, the derivative of the average cost of 400. So we are going to find C prime of this function. Now, to do this, if I write this function, I need to move this x out of the denominator. So to do that, we make the exponent negative and it becomes x to the negative first, because it's x to the first if we don't write it. And that's the only thing I have to change before I take the derivative. So we get negative 100,000 x to the negative second, because -1 minus 1 is -2. The derivative of 50 is 0, and the derivative of 0.05x is that minus 0.05. I'm then going to plug in 400. And it's up to you if you want to leave it as x to the negative second. Just make sure you don't forget the negative when you're typing it in your calculator, or if you want to change it before you simplify it into like a negative 100,000, and then you would bring, it's like the x squared to the denominator, so it'd be like 400 to the positive 2 in the denominator. They should give you the same answers. And so either way, I get negative 0.675. Okay, so this gives me the rate of change, the instantaneous rate of change of the average cost. Okay, so again, it would be the average cost to produce the 401st item after 400 items are already produced would be the interpretation for that. And again, the units when we do the derivative is always going to be like dollars per item, because we're talking about how much it's going up again for that 401st item from the 400 to that. So the average cost. So the average cost of producing the 401st item after producing 400 items is that negative $0.675. So let me know if you have any questions, but hopefully this helps with some of the revenue cost problems.